So the digital future for people with disabilities and all of us then, because in like 10 years from now, a lot of people will be much older and statistically will have more problems with sight and with hearing and with motor skills. So this is about all this. Just here for next slide. So I thought we can always learn from the past. So before looking at the future, I would propose to go back a bit in the past. And I thought let's start with the First World War. And to start it off a bit lightly and yeah. So I presented my idea to my family, and they sort of proposed, that maybe just start at the end of the First World War. So this is the first thing I could find after the end of the First World War, December 1918. I was told that the war ended in November 1918. Okay, so I'm just on the right side of the war then. The German railroad company tested wireless telephony in trains. And of course, this had strategic importance. And if you study that, if you go to patents.google.com and you look at patents, then you can discover that there are already wireless telephony patents filed at the US Patent Bureau in 1904. So some people had a better view of the future than I will probably present here today. I also looked back a bit further, and there was to Napoleonic times, where there is a clue with what I'm doing in my daily work, which is making things accessible for people who are blind and partially sighted, and for all other people who have a disability. And I saw that in Napoleonic times they had a problem in sending news to the front, or sending messages to the front. So they sent these hand-scribbled papers to the front, and there was a soldier or an officer who sort of had to read that in the middle of the night. So he put on a match. I don't know what they had in Napoleonic times. Probably they didn't have a match. Maybe they did. So he made light, and he was instantly shot. So the idea is you have to find something that you can read without making light. And that is where the blind come in. So Charles Barbier, I think was his name, thought up a system with dots, points, and you could press it from beneath in a piece of paper, sort of code, and it was not only a code language, but it was also something you could read with your fingers. Only Barbier was a bit enthusiastic, so he thought of the 24-point Braille, we would call it now. It was the 24-point Braille secret language. And it was taken up later by Louis Braille, who lived in Paris and was searching for a better way to read than what blind people got in those times, which is somewhere I think before the start of the 19th century, which is where you sort of wrote in a mirror on the back of a piece of paper, and you pressed really hard, and then a blind person could feel it on the other side of the paper. So you could read the way we write. And that wasn't really functioning very well. So, especially when you're writing in the dark, this could be a problem to do this so nicely that even blind people can read it. So Louis Braille thought up a new version, which is the 6-point Braille. And we extended that recently because of the ASCII table. And here we come back to computers, and now I'm sort of switching from Napoleonic times to Louis Braille to the ASCII table, which is the computer era. And because in the ASCII table there are 128 signs, you're all a lot of technicians here, is that correct? 128. So with 8 points, 8 dots, you can make 128 signs, or combinations. So with the ASCII table, we have 8-dot Braille. Okay, let's go on. No, this was just has nothing to do with the future. But looking back at the past, those learners teach us something about the future. So this what you're going to see now has a reason. So I'll tell you when we finish the timeline. So in 1950, IBM patented the refreshable Braille reader, which is a belt And I looked it up. There was not an image of it, but there was an image of it, the US patent, of course. But I thought it maybe looked like a belt, and then it would be a wearable, and then it would be really ahead of time. So in the word, they were already ahead of time at IBM. But I'm afraid if you look at the patent, it looks very much like a Braille reader today.
Okay.
In 1989, the web was born. Yeah, sorry, is this too quick for people? Or? So 1989, because I have to go to the future, so I'm sort of skipping a lot of things that happened in the world. So if you missed the Second World War, I missed it too. So the birth of the web in 1994, there was the first public release. All links were created equal then. This was a time when you didn't pick up the phone in the home because you had the modem on. As soon as you get people started from these times about modems, they all start talking about how fast or slow their modem was. So then in 1999, we got the guidelines for accessibility of the web content accessibility guidelines version 1. So starting 1999, web developers were able to know what to do to make websites accessible. Then in 2000, the EU set the deadline. They said, well, let's make all member states' websites accessible by 2003. In 2003, there was the European Year of People with Disabilities. There was the launch of the European Action Plan from 2004 to 2010, where they set a new deadline for 2005. So maybe you missed it, but so the sites were still not accessible. That was the short message. So we waited for 2005, and then in 2005 they saw, well, this is not really realistic, you know. I mean, websites, you build them, it takes a while before you have a new one, sometimes even 3 years. So before you build a new one, so the new deadline was 2008. So we waited, but not in the Netherlands, because in the Netherlands we had the ministerial decision that said, well, starting in 2006, every website by every Dutch national government website, new one, should be conformant with these guidelines. And every old one should be conformant in 2008, if I'm correct. Is that correct? I think it's there, the front bench, people are nodding yes. Okay, I should know, of course. Then 2007, we were waiting because the deadline was 2008. It was the launch of the iPhone. We just heard about the accessibility built in there. And then in 2008, well, it was, I mean, you will understand, it is very difficult to make websites accessible in such a short time. No, really. So if you look at the I don't have the figure, but if you look at the expanding number of pages and websites in the years that I just described, you'll understand that there's so much that it's very difficult to make accessible. So we got the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, and it is sort of, how do you call that, accepted by most countries in the world, except a few. So it's like Asterix and Obelix, you know, like everybody is Roman, except this little village, which is sort of a heroic story, and that is the story of the Netherlands also. So we are part of this heroic story. Everybody accepted it, except the Netherlands. Yeah, but we're busy because we have a different approach in the Netherlands. Just to stay positive, of course. Other countries first say yes, we'll do it, and then they take 20 years to do something. And in the Netherlands, we say we'll do it, but before in the parliament, you would say that you agree with it. You first have to sort of see to it that everything is done already, or otherwise you'll get difficult questions. So if we finally agree, which should be next year, I think, probably we'll be completely ready for it, and then we'll be the first one in Europe to be compliant with all websites. So also in 2008, just maybe you missed, but there is a plan called 2010, I-2010, and we also got WCAG Act 2. And in 2008 we got a lot of complaints by people like, oh, these guidelines are changing so fast. It's so difficult to know what to do. So yeah, and we still get these remarks from people. So, but there isn't a version 3 yet. Okay, then 2009, of course, looking for 2010 because that was the real year. And then in 2010 they decided, well, let's make it 2012. It's getting a bit boring, but okay. So they had a new strategy 2010, 2020. So you can sort of expect what will happen in the next years, don't you? So, but let's look for 2012. So we saw the sensor economy appearing in 2011. So all things are happening around this people who are trying to make websites accessible. In the meantime, you see like sensor things, people walking around with these bands, and then on their phone they can see how their heart rate is doing, and they can sort of now, who has this thermostat where you really have to turn? Nobody. Wow. Only one, two. Wow. Probably everybody is afraid to put up their fingers. So who has this thermostat that you can do with the iPhone or with your Android phone? Nobody has it. Only two also. So the rest of you don't have a thermostat in your house at all. That's incredible. Yeah. Okay, in 2012, everything should have been level A accessible, and the deadline was set for January 2015. In the meantime, we saw machine-to-machine, smart objects, ubiquitous computing, mobile broadband, the Internet of Things, I just talked about, and the cloud came up. It's not so old as you would think. And then, of course, in 2013, we're looking forward to 2015, because then, January 2015, all websites now are level A compliant, and then there will be level AA compliant. And of course, as Gareth told that earlier, everybody has a framework in place that sort of guarantees this. So, yeah. That was not the intention that you were laughing at. The intention, we all say, yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, so in 2014, we're still looking forward to 2015. In the meantime, we have gotten NFC mobile payments, multi-language translations. I still have a lot of people asking me, like, yeah, it would be so nice if you could look at something and it would automatically translate. It's already there. Yeah, you get the Google Speech API. I don't know who has the Google Speech API installed on his Android phone here. 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. Is there blind people with the Google API installed? Blind? Yeah. So, do you use it every day?
No.
No. Okay. Well, maybe they should do a bit more advertising. Huh? Yeah. In 2015, all websites are level A accessible, and I'm an optimistic guy, so I just believe this. And in the meantime, we have the I-2010 plan, and I sort of skipped over it. But in I-2010, there was a European commissioner who said, "Well, that's nice. I'll ask people to do it friendly, but I'm sort of sure from the people around me that they won't. So, you know, I'm not going to pressure them. I'll just give them a deadline, like 2015 or 2010. And if they don't do it in 2010, then I will set out and make laws. I will make a directive. I will make a European Accessibility Act. And a directive meaning that all member states have to comply. So that still doesn't mean that it's happening, of course, because I mean, if you don't comply, nobody will fine you or something. But all these things are in place now. So in the earlier presentation, we heard about the directive. The directive may be coming next year, or it should have been coming this year, maybe next year in 2015, maybe later, because there are a few countries who are still not agreeing with the directive, and because they have a different approach, which is good, I think. One of the approaches was presented earlier here, which is, I think, you can say what you want of these approaches, but they're sort of looking for a new realism in accessibility. So we see in this timeline that it's very difficult to fully comply by setting a deadline and then doing sort of an audit at the end. And Gareth already told that the audit at the end doesn't really help. So you have to do this during the process. Okay, so let's go to 2020. So we're expecting 2017 nanotechnology personalization in care, health, etc. And the idea is that you really get something injected or something, yeah. Yeah. I mean, 2 years. Okay, then, somebody told me that in 2018 you wouldn't have paper anymore. Let's see then. It's like accessibility, I think. You can say that, but it will still be there. And then 2020. How about the future of accessibility? Well, you've tried it here. The future of accessibility is not just the web. A lot of people I've spoken to sort of convinced me that the web will not be there anymore in 2020. Not the web as we know it. So if you're a web developer, then you should really be alarmed. Yeah. So what will be there? I'll show it in a minute. Yeah, I think that is where I need my paper. So, yeah. So we have head-mounted displays already there. You can try them here in the back. We will have augmented reality. And we're testing it at the moment with blind people. So, and you know what they say, if you put them Google Glass on the head of a blind person, of course you know what they say. Is it on? And then, I can't see anything. And then, so you tell them, no, but there's a speech interface. But the speech interface is your interface. It says a few things back, but not everything. So there's a lot to do in speech. And it's coming because the automotive industry is not interested in accessibility at all, but they are interested in speech. They want you to sit in your car, check your emails, but also send emails and do things that you would like to do on your mobile while you are in the car for 1.5 hours and you can't do anything because you're driving. Stupid idea. Yeah. Okay, so 3D printing, and not just the 3D printing like the crazy objects you see there to the left, you know, these things, I don't know if you just do a search for what people 3D print, sort of, no idea why you would want a 3D printer. I mean, who wants a cup like this? Okay, then education, which is really a concern. We researched education and the accessibility of it on the web, on apps, on tablets, and it is totally inaccessible. But really, totally inaccessible. So it doesn't comply with any guideline. And if you talk to organizations making this, they all sort of wake up and accessibility. Never thought of it. But they are flipping the classroom, they are starting up blended learning, they have these systems where you have to log in to do anything. Well, that only works if you have really good friends. Yeah. And that is, of course, where the social media come in. So you can sort of gather friends and then through Twitter ask them, okay, this is my login, could you please see what my homework is tonight? If you trust them. Yeah, and then the cloud. So just an example here of cloud. In the total plan of the Dutch educational cloud, the word accessibility, toegankelijkheid in Dutch, appears once. But it appears in ondersteuning van any device. So it doesn't appear in accessibility for people with disabilities. So, yeah, they don't like the subject, so I found them, like, could we talk about it? And they just seem to be out of coffee. Yeah, other things that are happening, and that will be happening more in 2020, is mobile phones. And one of them is the neurotransmitters. So I'll come back to that in a moment. The Internet of Things, wearables, sensors, as soon as you walk somewhere, you see specific projections, or you get projections on your glass, or whatever you have. Dynamic and interactive terminals. I don't know if you see this, but it really alarms me. These self-service terminals that you see, and they're all touchscreen. So it is, and they're coming to us really fast. So you still go to a bus station now, and there is this paper thing. But in 2020, you'll probably also expect that they will all be touchscreens, or screens that if you have an NFC chip in your phone, or it can recognize you, it will sort of personalize the information you get. Automotive developments, there is a new group in W3C that is going to write guidelines on automotive developments. Bionic body parts, you already have bionic eye, with which some people with a very specific eye problem can see, and everything is sort of being gamified, at least it looks like that. Yeah, and then television, that's why I asked my question to Gareth, will it still be there in 2030? And he said yes, so, okay. Good. Yeah. But happily, thanks to the video on demand and the tablet interfaces, it may be more accessible than it is now, because that's also what he presented, I think, that the television as we know it, with the remote control, is not really very accessible. To give an example, my children don't watch television at all. So I don't know who has children here in the age of like 12 to 16. Do they watch television?
They game all day.
Yeah, they game all day. Yeah.
And they look at their smartphone when they want to look at film or something.
Yeah.
They watch Doctor. They look at you too.
They watch
Doctor.
Yeah, they watch Doctor Who anyway. Yeah, yeah. So do I hit a Dalek here in the left corner. So yeah, that was just for you. Yeah, yeah. Watch out. So what does this show us? Okay, that's where my paper comes in. Take my glasses out. Off. Are all links created equal? No way. Computing is a mess. It is a mess now, and it will still be a mess in 2020. Computers don't know where you are. And if they do, they have no idea what you're doing or why you are there. They have no context. They're quirky. They're not accessible. Data are being gathered from us. But still a lot of these data don't work together. So that's probably one of the reasons why they are quirky. So this is sort of an alarm thing. Like maybe in 10 years from now, these data will know what we're doing because they're being combined in the right way. Then I found a few very nice presentations on how to outsmart big data. That is for the example of the lady that got a message home from a shop that she was pregnant, and that was 2 weeks before she told her parents. So you have a few nice articles telling you how to sort of prevent this. So what do we need? Well, we need to go to the next step. Maybe we need data to be more intelligent, to be able to help us navigate if we are blind, or to help us in the kitchen, or to understand what we want to do, so data can help us. Maybe we need more awareness. Well, in fact, of course, every time I say maybe, you should say, no, Eric, we really need that. So maybe we need more awareness. And maybe we need guidelines. And I just heard that maybe we need standards and a framework instead of guidelines. But okay, so what the heck, I like Waker. So maybe we need evangelists, like we see them today. Not just here before me and after me, but also in the sessions this afternoon. The people who are really working hard on accessibility. That's the people, that's you. We need you. And not for the US Army, but for accessibility. And I think we need research, much more knowledge, much more innovation, and in an early stage. Because now the Internet of Things is happening, and none of us is involved. Who is involved in the Internet of Things? Ah, good. Okay. Well, speak to me after this presentation. Yeah. Sure. Then I can be involved too. Yeah. So, and we need help. So, and the help, I think, should come from you. And finally, I think we need hope. Because hope is, after the timeline I showed you earlier, I think hope is probably the only thing that keeps me standing here and being optimistic for all these years. And really believing that in 2015, which is in a few months, all websites in the Netherlands will be level A conformant. So why should I worry about 2020? Well, I don't have to worry about the web anymore. I'll have to worry about the Internet of Things, other things we use, automatic cars that will get us. I mean, why would blind people still care about public transport if like in 5 years we can just call Google and they send us a car and it will take us anywhere we like. Probably cost a fortune. Yep. Okay, so then, no, that was you. Maybe Dr. Hu also. Yeah. Yeah, that one thing I want to stress, that I should have ended after we need help, but I just couldn't. I didn't get the sign that I still have 10 minutes, so.
Yeah, 5.
I'm doing that way all the time, and like, still have 10 minutes. Yeah. So,
Including the Q&A.
yeah. Okay. So, don't forget to ask people with disabilities. And there are a lot of experts here today, from my organization, from all organizations. I don't know who's here from Accessibility Foundation. Yeah, so that's like 4 people. So try out the virtual reality. And don't try out the office one. Try out the one where you fall over the roller coaster, which is much nicer.
Stop, Eric. I don't promise.
It's much nicer, really. Yeah. And then if you don't see it, then please tell us what you would like to see or what you would like to hear. So we can tell the people making these things what they need to do, because they're open to it. We tested Google Glass with blind people, and this is what they said. And they had a wish list, which is this wish list. And we sent the wish list to Google, and Google sent us back. We put it on the discussion lists. And we got a thank you from them. And we know that in the next version of the Glass software, some of the things were in there. So you can really make a difference. And you should. So that's your homework after today. And that is also, I think, the last slide.